Today, we are reading Chapter 3 from A Horn for Louie. Chapter 3 In the Alley. The city was waking up. Louie smelled fresh coffee. He smelled the special New Orleans donuts called beignets. The market opened and people called out what they had to sell. Fresh bread, hot from the oven. Watermelon, so sweet and ripe, fresh watermelon. Tomatoes, tomatoes. Banana. Fish, catfish, come on by. Each call was like a song. Louie took out his tin horn. He made up tunes to go with the calls he heard. Alex had a call too. It went, rags, cloths, bottles, old iron. Louie made up a tune to go with Alex's call. People liked to hear Louie play. They brought their junk to Alex. Alex paid a penny for a big sack of bottles and tin cans. He loaded up the junk in the back of the wagon. You keep playing. I'll load the junk, Alex told Louie. Your horn brings the people. They save their junk for us so they can hear you blow your horn. Your horn makes people happy. I wish I had a real horn, Louie said. I'd play like King Oliver. I'd make lots more people happy. That day will come, Alex said. I know it will. For now, you're doing fine. The three of us make a good team. You, me, and Rosie. And my horn, said Louie. He started playing faster. Children came running. Louie saw many of his cousins. He saw many of his friends. Play, Louie, play that horn, they told him. The children loved to hear Louie make music. They searched the alleys for cans and bottles. They put them in sacks. They brought them to the wagon. They danced together in the street while Louie played. Some people even tossed pennies to Louie. Alex picked up the pennies and gave them to Louie. Keep playing, Alex said. A man came walking along the street with his girlfriend. Louie could tell that the man was a sport. Sports were the best-dressed fellows in New Orleans. Most were gamblers. They lived fast and hard. They won or lost hundreds of dollars playing dice or cards. Lady Luck must be smiling on this dude, Louie thought. The man wore a fine suit and a brand new hat. His high-buttoned shoes shined as brightly as the diamond ring on his finger and the gold tooth in his mouth. Louie started blowing his tin horn as hard as he could. Listen to that boy play, the sport's girlfriend said. He has talent. Yes, he does, the sport said. Too bad he doesn't have a real horn. That tin horn's nothing. It's a piece of junk. The sport reached into his pocket. He took out a coin and tossed it into the wagon. Get yourself a real horn. Louie picked up the coin. It was a silver dollar. Look, Alex, Louie said. A whole buck. We're doing good. 50 cents for you and 50 cents for me. No, said Alex. It's $1 for you. You earned it. That sport liked the way you blew your horn. Louie was amazed. Children would toss pennies to hear him play, but a whole dollar? He couldn't believe it. If you can make $1 with that little beat-up tin horn, there's no telling how far you could go with a real one, Alex said. Yeah, said Louie. A horn of his own, a trumpet, or even a little cornet. How many more dollars would he need? Alex drove the junk wagon to a part of town called the French Quarter. It was the oldest part of New Orleans, built when the city belonged to France. Some of the houses were so old that they had to lean against each other to keep from falling down. The wagon passed beneath iron balconies that hung over the street. Many Italian people lived in the quarter. They loved music. Hey, Bambino, play your horn for us. Louie began to play. People came out on the balconies to listen. Children followed the wagon, dancing in the street. A boy ran up to the wagon. He was older and bigger than Louie. How can you make music come out of that little piece of tin? He asked. It doesn't even have a mouthpiece. Louie showed him how he held his fingers together and blew through them to make a sound. Without warning, the boy snatched the tin horn from Louie's hands. Come back with that, Alex shouted. Louie jumped from the wagon. Give me my horn, he yelled, running after the boy. The big boy laughed and tossed the horn to another boy. Louie ran after him. Come and get it, the boys yelled, tossing the horn back and forth. It was a game for them, but not for Louie. He needed that horn. Alex couldn't help him. He had to stay with the wagon. Louis had to get his horn back by himself. The boys ran down an alley. Louis ran after them. The alley turned and twisted. Louis could no longer see the boys, but he could hear them laughing. He followed their voices. The alley opened up into a courtyard filled with trash. Louis saw the boys gathered in the corner. There were 7 of them and 1 of him. They looked tough. Louis couldn't outfight them. He'd have to outthink them. The biggest boy was trying to play the tin horn. He couldn't get more than a buzz out of it. Louis walked right up to him. "You'll never get it to play that way. Do you want me to show you how to do it?" Louis asked. "Yeah," the boy said. He handed Louis the horn. The other boys gathered around to watch. Louis ducked between them and ran. The boys chased after him. Louis ran down the alley. Which way should he go? Right? Left? This wasn't his neighborhood. He didn't know these streets. They ran every which way, like a tangled bunch of old wire in the back of the junk wagon. The boys were getting closer. Louis knew he was in big trouble if they caught him. Suddenly, he heard a familiar cry. "Rags! Cloths! Bottles! Old iron!" It was Alex calling for him. The junk wagon had to be near. Louis ran towards Alex's voice. The alley opened up onto the street. There was the junk wagon. Louis leaped into the back among the piles of junk. The boys stopped in their tracks. Alex stood up, holding the cart whip that he used to guide Rosie. "Do you boys want something?" he asked them. The boys slunk back into the alley, mumbling to themselves. Alex waited until they were out of sight before turning to Louis. "Are you crazy?" he asked him. "What's the idea? Those boys belong to a street gang. They could have beat you bloody." "I got my horn back," Louis said. "Did you? Take a look at it." Louis stared at the squashed tin tube that used to be his horn. He had fallen on it when he jumped into the wagon. When he tried to straighten it out, the horn snapped in 2. "My horn!" Louis screamed. "That horn is kaput. Finished. May it rest in peace," Alex said. "What am I going to do?" Louis wailed. "You'll get a new one," Alex answered. "It's about time. I was getting tired of listening to that old piece of junk." "How am I going to pay for a new horn?" Louis demanded to know. "The sport gave you $1. "It's a start," Alex grinned. "Let's go shopping." And that is the end of Chapter 3.